Hey guys. Hey, I wanted to make a short video about what to do with your motorcycle seat if it's uncomfortable. I've always had trouble with this. Pretty much every motorcycle I've had, never found one that I was super comfortable on for long distances. And this FZ6 that I'm working on now is no exception. I can get about 45 minutes in terms of riding, and then I start to get hot spots on my rear end where it's just super painful, and I got to stop and get off the bike, and it just makes a really unpleasant riding experience, because once you start to get pain, then even after you take a break, within a few minutes of starting riding again, that pain starts to come back. So I wanted to do something different. I looked at a lot of different options. One of which was a Corbin seat, an aftermarket seat, and it looked nice and the reviews were good, but I think it was around $450, and I just wasn't willing to spend that much money for a custom seat. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you might be in the same boat. So I decided I wanted to try to make my own seat. I figured, how hard could it be? It's all, foam and glue and then a seat cover. So I'll just show you real quick the stock FZ seat. It might be kind of hard to tell, but you can tell it's significantly thinner, and also that pan dips up quite a bit. So the actual padding thickness is not very thick. And I think that the major manufacturers use the cheapest foam they can get their hands on. I've heard that because the reason for that is when you sit on cheaper foam, like in the dealership showroom, it gives a little more. So that, when you go and look at bikes, you're like, oh, the seat's really great. But then once you leave the dealership, then that foam kind of gives and takes a set. And then it's not very comfortable at all. And that makes sense to me. The 5 minutes in the dealership is the most important time for the manufacturer of the bike, because they want you to have a good experience on it. So what I opted to do, I wanted to maintain the integrity of my stock seat in case I ever saw the bike. In case they didn't like the seat that I made, I wanted them to be able to, use the stock seat. So I bought a second stock seat on eBay, and I got it for about $40. And I think shipping was like $8 or something, so it was pretty affordable. And then I didn't have to touch my stock seat. And the second benefit is I can continue to ride my bike while I'm working on my seat, because it took me, a few weeks to get it right. So you always have the stock seat to put back on it. So I had originally planned on making this into a step-by-step video, but I'm really bad at that. I always forget to take video when I'm doing certain key things. And then I'm missing steps, and it's just, I'm not very good at it. So I figured I'd do a wrap-up video and just kind of describe what I did. And hopefully that'll help someone who's thinking about doing something similar. So the first thing that is difficult to figure out is what kind of foam you should be using. Like, if the manufacturers use cheap foam, then what foam should you use? So I did a lot of research and actually contacted a lot of foam manufacturers just to get some different details on foam. And the base foam that you want to use that's going to make up the majority of your seat is called Rebond, R-E-B-O-N-D. And you might recognize the look of it because it's the same stuff they use for carpet padding, although carpet padding is much thinner than this. It comes in different densities. The density is measured in pounds, and I assume that's pounds per cubic foot of material or some other, volumetric unit. But this bottom one is 7 pound. So you can see it's pretty rigid. This is a 2-inch thick pad that I got from the foam supplier. This one is 5 pounds, and you can see it's significantly squishier. So just standard practice that I found to work well is you want to use your stiffer foam toward the bottom of the seat and then decrease the density as you go up. So what I did on my second stock seat that I bought is I took the seat cover off, obviously, and then I cut everything off of the front. So the the area where the rider sits. I took that foam right down to the pan, so stripped it all off. I did leave the foam on my tail section because I wasn't as worried about that. You know, I rarely carry a passenger, and when I do, it's for a few minutes at a time, so seat comfort isn't a big deal. And the FC tail section has kind of a sweep up to it, and it's a real, it'd be real difficult to duplicate that and have it look right. So I just cut it basically where that seam line is that you see, cut it straight down to the pan and removed all that stock foam. So then I took my 2-inch rebound foam, this is 7 pound here, and basically use a tack spray, which I used a few different kinds, and you know, they all work pretty well. What I found to work the best was this drywall corner bead adhesive. It's just adhesive that I had laying around. So you spray both sides basically and let it tack up for a few seconds, and then you press it real hard down onto that seat pan, and the foam will stick really well using this. But there are a lot of different adhesives, so use your favorite. Anything that's safe for plastics or you know, or foams will work just fine, no issue. So once I had that down, I kind of did some simple trimming, and what I used for that was a, trying to think of what it's called. It's like an electric carving knife, like what you'd use for Thanksgiving turkey with the 2 blades that go back and forth. So that works awesome. You can basically just turn that on and sculpt the foam to what you want the general shape to be. And then you go from there. You continue to build up layers and then trim it back, you know, sit on it, maybe add some more foam in certain places, trim it again. You know, you can't really screw up, because worst case scenario, you pull off a layer of foam and you start over with a new layer. So the foam itself is cheap. I bought a bunch of foam, like probably enough to do 2 seats, and it was about 45 bucks. So you know, don't worry about making mistakes or anything. Just if you have to, go back and buy another $10 worth of foam if you run out. You know, it's not a big deal. So some of the other types of foams that I got just to play with, this black one on top is neoprene, and neoprene has kind of a neat feel to it. It gives at first, but then gets harder the more you compress it, which I guess most foams probably do, but it's pronounced on the neoprene. So I used some of that in key areas. I also picked up a sheet of memory foam. So you're all familiar with memory foam. It's what comes on high-end mattresses, and it just gives that really cool, you know, space age, you know, plushness. Memory foam works best on the very top layer, because when you sit on the seat, that's going to be the first, oh, this is a comfortable seat, you know. But then once that is compressed, you know, kind of in the shape of your rear end, then your more dense foams on the bottom are not going to give as much, so they're going to provide you with the support that you need. Also got some thinner sheets of neoprene. This was good for trimming. Like if I had any rough areas, this was thin enough to bend around corners and just provide some of that smoothness that you might not get out of the other foams. So the other thing I did, which I wish I had remembered to take a video while I was doing that, is they make gel pads. You can get them on Amazon. I think the one I bought was about 25 bucks. Just a cool gel pad. It's green, you know, looks like Play-Doh or something, except it's a little translucent. And it was just a square, it wasn't in any particular shape. So all I did was, once I had my foam pretty well the way I wanted it, I cut a hole corresponding to the gel pad in that top layer of foam, and then laid the gel pad in there, and then put another thin layer of foam on top of it. So like you can't really detect that it's in there, like you can't push it, but when you're riding, it does make a difference. You know, it saps vibration from the bike and a bunch of other benefits. You know, just it makes it easier on your body in the long run. So the other thing that making your own seat allows you to do is, you know, build the seat up if you want, like the FZ seat. I'll try to get an angle in here. The FZ seat came pretty much following this contour more or less. So I put a good 2.5 inches of additional height on the front. I wanted a more level seat that I could, wouldn't slide me into the tank, especially coming into corners. I was constantly, when I was under braking, I'd be getting packed up against that seat, and your crotch was the first thing to hit. So I just want a little more height, level it out a little bit, just make the general ergonomics a little better, in addition to using nicer foam for the seat. So the nice thing is, I keep saying the nice thing is, but another benefit of making your own seat is, you can actually ride the bike with the seat uncovered, before you have it covered up. You can take it for a 45-minute ride or an hour ride and see how it feels. And if there's something you find that you don't like about it, you can fix it. Add foam, or like I said earlier, remove a piece of foam, and just make changes until you're happy with it. That's the main thing. I didn't want to buy a $450 seat and then bring it home and take it for a ride and say, oh, this thing sucks and I hate it, and now I got to try to sell it on eBay for half what I paid for it. I wanted that adjustability to it so I could really fine tune it for my hind parts, and then when it was all done, get it covered. And any upholstery shop that covers furniture is capable of doing a seat. The principles are all the same. I have a nice Iranian man that owns an upholstery shop down where I work, and he does fabulous work, and I think he charged me $65 to recover this thing, and he did a really nice job. He even cleaned up some of the foam edges because I had left them a little bit rough, not pretty good, but a little bit rough, and he had cleaned them up before he recovered it, and he sewed like a 10-panel seat cover for it, all for $65. So all in, I probably got 150, 160 into it, something like that. But I think it's a beautiful seat. It's made for my body. It's comfortable for me. And now I can ride for 4 or 5 hours without feeling any pain at all. And when I get the opportunity, when the weather warms up, I'll take some even longer rides than that and see how long I can stretch it. So I'll bottom line it for you. If you don't like your seat, you are not alone. You do not have to shell out almost $500 for a new custom seat. You can do it yourself, and the final product can be great. And you can learn a new skill along the way. Learning how to reupholster things, or recover things with foam, and where to get foam and what kind to use. That's all important stuff to know for some other project you might be working on. So good luck with your project, and I hope this helps you.